Hey, this is Sydney, and I am here to talk us through the time of August 27th through September 2nd, 2025. This is going to be kind of an astrological landscape of kind of the vibes, the weather, the deets sort of thing. I'm going to try to make my videos shorter than normal. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. I have changed my location. I am just trying to find different places in my home that I can kind of control the light a little bit better, especially as the seasons are changing. Please like and subscribe. And also, I have one question for you. Do you like the chart that happens to the left of me, or does that even matter to you? Because if it doesn't matter to you, that would save me a moment of editing. Let me tell you what. All right. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So let's go over some of the broad strokes for the week. I'm recording this on Tuesday. Tuesday is kind of a big day for Venus in particular. She is going to sextile Uranus, trine retrograde Neptune, and oppose Pluto. So there could be some power and control dynamics, some new, fresh ideas and dreams and visions. And I think it really kind of sets us up for whatever kind of comes up around Venusian things. She's kind of going through the pressure washer with some easy and some difficult aspects in order for us to maybe kind of feel renewed in our senses of relationship, money, value, love, beauty, all sorts of stuff, matters of the heart, right? And so things could be coming up today and over the next few days too, because it's going to take a few days for those aspects to get out of exactitude or away from the orb of influence, let's say. So just know that these topics could be on your mind. For me, the question has been, is this worth it? Is doing this thing worth it? Engaging in this thing, having this goal, having this dream, having this vision, is it worth it? Is this something that I want to put my value into? And do I think that that's going to return to me as well? We are in eclipse season. Fun. And eclipse season, I think, really officially started with that new moon lunation that happened just a few days ago at 0 degrees Virgo. We are going to get another new moon in Virgo at the very end of Greece. So nice, we're doing it twice. But that is going to be an eclipse. And we have also an eclipse happening on a lunar total eclipse that will be happening on the 15th, I believe. No, on the 7th of September as well. So this is really a mutable madness time. And mutable planets really and mutable placements really need to kind of be able to be flexible and adaptable, to go with the flow. And this is a time of big beginnings and endings. And whatever kind of just whooshes out of the life, let it happen. Things that start new, you might have an opportunity to kind of turn it around in your mind over these next few weeks. And then go off, especially with that new moon in Virgo eclipse that will happen at the end of this month. So, eclipse season, faded times, rock and roll, lots of stuff going on. Thursday, we have kind of one of the biggest aspects of, I don't know, not the year, but certainly of the season, if not the year. It's one of the biggies, right? Is Uranus sextiling Neptune. This is the first of 5 sextiles that will be happening. And the last time it kind of did this gauntlet of sextiles was back in the 60s, in 1966 through like 68, right? And if you go back in time, if you just go into your little Google machine and you look at what was going on in the world, there was a lot of revolution. There was a lot of upheaval. There was a lot of unrest. There was a lot of protest. There was a lot of new artistic expression and thought and thinking. And we are now here again. So this sextile is going to be happening in air and fire. The second one is going to happen when Uranus and Neptune dip back into earth and water, respectively. And then the next 3 after that will all be in air and fire. But what this means is that we are in a time of change. Where we are or where we were a year ago is not where we're going to be when we get out of this kind of gauntlet of these big cultural shifts. So by 2027, when these 5 sextiles are done, we're going to be changed. The vision, right? Technology, communication, speaking, thinking, writing, the way we use tech, the way it engages with us, right? The way we engage with art, the way that art is made, our cultural norms. All of these things are really up for a change. And then this gauntlet of sextiles will not happen for another 110 years. So this is it, babe. We were incarnated here to experience some really, really unprecedented times. We can go back and go look at those sextiles in other times, right, to kind of see what they mean. And then we know that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So we know that we are up for a lot of change and revolution. It also means something significant too, that Pluto is very, very close to going out of bounds. And we'll be going in and out of bounds through 2035, also creating this sort of deep institutional, like subatomic change in society all over the world. Monday of this week, we're going to get Saturn re-entering Pisces for its last little moment there. That will be for the next 28 years. So if you have a Saturn in Pisces story, right? Or if you are of the Saturn in Pisces generation for your Saturn return, that last bit is going to come back and be like, hey, one more thing, right? And it's going to be retrograde, or it's going to be in Pisces until February 15th of 2026. So there's that. Let's see. Next Tuesday. So I'm recording this on Tuesday, the 26th, but the following Tuesday, which should be September 1st, Mercury is going to enter Virgo, and we love that for her. We are going to talk about that when we get there. And I think that those are kind of all of the big general notes. I just want to like restate that we are in really, really profound times. And I think those of us who are really seeking to change and grow and evolve and to shift and become more compassionate and more open and more loving towards other people, to understand other cultures and perspectives, to understand that things aren't just black and white, that there is a whole litany of gray, and we have to figure out kind of where we are in there. I think we really get to see the promise of what this time can hold. And that for those of us who want to live in fear or into a binary or into ignorance or hatred or bigotry, this is going to be a really, really freaking hard time to be alive. So, yep, no matter what, it's going to be a challenge, but try to keep your heart open. Let's get into the week. Wednesday, August 27th is Mercury's day. Mercury is still in Leo. For this day, open-hearted, warm-hearted, generous, creative forms of expression and communication and connecting. Try to communicate through the heart space, right? I think this is a time to be playful and to try to engage in ways that seem joyous or brave. I think that there's a bravery aspect to speak on the things that you need to feel brave about as well. This day in particular, I don't think feels very freaking great. There's not a ton of aspects in terms of Ptolemaic aspects. And also we have some quincunxes and oppositions. 12:04 p.m., we're going to have moon opposite retrograde Chiron. This is sensitivity. This is like maybe something happens that really makes you feel kind of like you're a walking open wound a little bit. This could be in relationship or how you're relating to others or how you're needing to connect. Maybe you are recognizing that you're not getting the sort of care and consideration that you want, or you're not being able to offer that to somebody else that needs that from you. It certainly feels more relational because we do have the moon in Libra and Chiron in Aries, and Aries and Libra are in that kind of relationship dynamic. Then nothing is happening. So I think we're just kind of walking around feeling, you know? And then at 6:27 p.m., the moon is going to enter Scorpio. This is a moon that is fallen. This is a moon that feels, kind of heavy. It's churning, internally churning, right? It is an investigative, obsessive, can be a very angry or psychological sort of moon. It is a moon that like is feeling so intensely and so deeply, but there really isn't necessarily like the outward expression of it. Instead, it just kind of keeps it all bottled up inside and it's just like going through it. The key to a moon in Scorpio is that this is a time for purging, for letting go, right? For kind of allowing things to die away and to leave if you can actually let it go, because what a moon in Scorpio does not want to do is to release, though that is the imperative. Release the things that no longer serve you, especially emotionally. The moon is going to have quincunxes to retrograde Saturn and Neptune and retrograde Neptune. These are engirdled by that Mars in Libra. So this could have to do with like how we are actively like seeking harmony in relationships, or how we want to be taken care of, or the things that have to do with our desires, certainly, or our drives, our passions. But these quincunxes feel really, really frustrated and a little bit anxious. We're being asked to adjust, to emotionally adjust, maybe to these sorts of responsibilities that are placed on us, or the sorts of like dreams and visions that we like want to do, but we can't really quite get there unless we make some sort of emotional adjustment. And hopefully that also means some sort of release. The quincunxes don't feel great, right? I think these feel particularly fired up and pretty passionate because the moon and also retrograde Saturn and Neptune are ruled by Mars, a planet of anger, a planet of passion, a planet of drive, right? And Mars isn't in the best mood either because he's kind of like in this relational sign where he really would prefer to be self-directed. So I think that all of this feels like kind of a relationship-y kind of day, and it doesn't feel necessarily very good. At 10:09 p.m., we're going to have the moon square retrograde Pluto as a psychological, very like passionate, intense, obsessive compulsive kind of square where we are kind of feeling like very, very frustrated. It's fixed. And we're kind of being pushed to hopefully release something through some sort of confrontation, but it doesn't feel great. So just kind of know that Wednesday, the vibes might be a little sus, and to just know you're just kind of try to go through the flow, go with the flow, and release where you can. Thursday, August 28th is Jupiter's day. Jupiter is still in Cancer. He loves being there. He is soon going to meet a little square or a big square from Mars in a few days' time. So I think it's kind of within that space of it starting to form, which could kind of bring us into the realm of try not to overdo it, to overexert oneself, certainly. We have a couple of aspects that are fascinating today. We do have the moon in Scorpio opposite Venus in Leo. I think this can kind of bring up some relationship issues and like being appreciated, noticed, getting what you want. There is a awareness aspect with the opposition, right? We're kind of finding ourselves feeling tested or limited. But because it's Moon Venus, we might kind of go overboard to try to like get the things that we desire here. And it can feel kind of obsessive. And a bit dramatic as well. And this is in the middle of the night, but we kind of wake up with that. And then we're going to have the moon sextile sun in Virgo. This is 5:27 a.m. So like really when we're kind of going. What I like about this sextile is a really good working sextile to kind of get to the bottom of things. Moon in Scorpio and sun in Virgo. These are investigative, analytical sorts of signs, right? If I were to ask a friend to find someone on the internet for me, I would want someone with these placements. They're like the little FBI kind of thing. So I like this working sextile. It does feel, kind of purgative in a way as well. And then we're going to get the moon biquintile retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune. I think that this kind of will bring us to maybe being able to kind of sit within ourselves and to feel a little bit more maybe grounded, maybe within our own authority of feeling and of sensing and our intuition. They're pretty minor aspects, so they could just float on by. And then the big one for today at 5:14 p.m. is Uranus sextile Neptune. So this aspect has been forming for a while now. This isn't like new, but this is when it's actually super exact. The first of 5 sextiles over the next like 2-ish years. Yeah. With the last sextile being in 2027. So, this really speaks to, surprising shifts in our consciousness, new visions for the future and our dreams and technology. This is like cultural shifting times. I did speak about this specifically in the opening remarks for this week. But this is these are big, big, big shifts. It's going to happen at 1 degree 26. So Uranus is in Gemini and Neptune is in Aries, retrograde Neptune in Aries. These are at the very early degrees. So specifically, because these are like the outer planets, these things might not necessarily be hitting your chart in any big way unless you have really early degree or late degree planets near the sign, right? So if you have something around that like 0 to 4, especially in air and fire, like this is probably going to impact you. If you have something that is like in the very, very late Taurus, very, very late Pisces, like in that 28, 29, you're probably going to get a little bit of action from it as well because it's so close to the threshold of that sign barrier. But I think that this speaks more to a big cultural and worldwide shifting in terms of technology and perspectives and dreams and visions and consciousness, communication, all of that, rather than on a personal level, unless it absolutely has to do with your chart. I think that this day really kind of just feels like a bit of flow, and it really is inside of this liminal eclipse space. So I'd be really interested to see what comes up today, because I think there's something like new and fresh for us here. Friday, August 29th is Venus's day. Venus is now free of, well, about to be completely free of being within the influence of like Pluto and Neptune and Uranus. So she's had her conversation. Now she's kind of going to go on her way. Venus in Leo is such a fun Venus. She's leading with her heart, first and foremost. She's loyal. She's warm-hearted. She's flirty. She likes play, creativity. She wants to have fun. She's passionate, right? She can be a bit dramatic. She wants to, dress in big, bright, bold colors, like all sorts of fun stuff. So now, after what she learned from Pluto and Neptune and Saturn and Uranus, now she's kind of going off on her way to go and have her passionate fun. And I love that for her for now, right? So today we're going to have a little bit of like free floating, frustrated energy in the morning. Don't worry about it too much. Just kind of let it go through you. Maybe like when you wake up and you plant your feet on the ground from the bed, you just kind of go, these are the things I'm going to accomplish today. And I'm just going to kind of one by one, be patient and kind with myself. We're going to get a really beautiful aspect of Moon trine Jupiter in Cancer, and that is going to happen at 5:38 a.m. What a lovely, lovely trine to wake up with. You know, even though the moon is in Scorpio, this kind of brings us like a watery, sensitive, intuitive, deeply feeling trine. So if you're feeling the feelings, let that happen. This, I feel like it is a day for expressing the feelings, trying to find those healthy ways to just kind of get it out. Like let yourself have a good cry. You know, let yourself really like feel and connect and get deeper into the feeling process, the intuitive process, so that you know where you are and where you stand with yourself. We're going to get some beautiful quintiles from the moon to the sun and Pluto. I think this is just going to bring a little bit more of that intuition, a little bit of like kind of the psychic hit stuff. There's just like a flow to this day that feels really, there's a weight to it because the moon is in Scorpio. Certainly it's just feeling a lot, but I think that this is kind of the day until we get into the early evening to really kind of like do that work, to let things go and let things flow. At 5:47 p.m. though, we are going to get the moon in Scorpio is going to square Mercury and Leo, and this does feel like some sort of verbal sparring outburst, right? Anger, possibly rooted in ego. Maybe we said something, maybe we say something that we don't necessarily mean, or maybe we say something that, kind of brings in some sort of awareness to an issue. This can feel like a fight, certainly. We're saying stuff we don't necessarily mean. This could bring up some issues in friendships. This is the caution for the day, right? During the day, you're just going to be feeling. And then when we get to this square, the caution and the advice is to not pop off too hard in any which way. You might say something that you regret. Saturday, August 30th is Saturn's day. Saturn is still retrograde, will continue to be retrograde for quite a long time, is still in Aries today, sitting on the world point, so we can see things around, the structures in government, possibly having a little bit more of a world prominent flavor on this day. We have what my favorite astrologer, Anne Orderly, would say, a rock and rolling kind of day. There's a lot going on today. The moon is out of bounds, so we're still in the big feeling space. Though at 7:04 a.m., the moon is going to enter Sagittarius, which is great because now it's almost like the mood can kind of lift up. We want to be adventurous. We want to go out. We want to spread our wings and fly. Whereas Scorpio kind of turns in on itself and does all of this kind of needling and noodling internally. Now we just kind of go out, spread our wings and fly. We're going to get moon trine retrograde Saturn, trine retrograde Neptune. This is a nice working aspect to work on our goals, to work on our visions, just kind of go off and this is what I'm going to try to do and establish. It's really great. And then we're going to get at 9:59 a.m. the moon is going to oppose Uranus and Gemini. And I think that this is about kind of right brain, left brain thinking. Maybe some piece of information kind of comes through and it challenges us to really have an awareness around the kind of the beliefs that we're holding. And, these are quick aspects. The moon is very, very quick, but we could have some sort of like shock or, uh, hit of intuition that feels like surprising and really is inviting us to confront something within ourselves. We're going to get the sextile to retrograde Pluto from the moon at 10:42 a.m. This is going to allow us to go deeper. And so what's nice is like with that opposition from Uranus and Gemini earlier, just minutes earlier, right? Where we're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or that is causing me to feel some differently about something. Now we're able to like go kind of deeper in order to maybe like release something and do a gentle sort of release of something due to the information that was provided to us before. Some cranky, try not to go overboard in whatever way that you're reacting with the sesame square from the moon to Jupiter. It just kind of like inflates things in a way that is a little cattywampus because of the sesame square. And then we're going to get a nice biquintile to retrograde Chiron. This is going to be at 12:36 p.m. So like a little bit of intuition, maybe some self-empathy, some ability to kind of sit inside of the wisdom of our wounds and be able to say like, okay, I know I'm behaving out of this way versus how we tend to react to things, which is just kind of instinctually. I think that this kind of brings a wisdom inside of ourselves. And then at 3:19 p.m. we get the sun biquintile retrograde Pluto. What's interesting about this one is like the sun in Virgo, right? And Pluto in Aquarius. This is like about service and community. This can be about like investigation and systems, right? And this can be about technology. And there's just like a talent to be able to use these things at once. And so I really love this biquintile. I think it just really means that you can like create new innovative systems that like kind of help in like a deeper way. And so it's nice to kind of have that energy floating around for us to kind of harness or use in that moment. We're going to get Mercury biquintile retrograde Neptune. This is like really being able to like speak to your vision in like a really inspirational way, and possibly even in some sort of, it's inspirational, it's creative, it's intuitive. I think it feels a little bit psychic, maybe like a little bit of like a cognitive psychic download that you're kind of getting. The biquintile, it's so subtle, it's so gentle. Those are kind of the bigger aspects for the day, which aren't really big. They're biquintiles, so they're gentle talent, then ease of flow. We're going to get the moon in Sagittarius is going to trine Venus in Leo at 8:12 p.m. What I love about this trine is that if you're going to go out and party, go out with friends, this is a really lovely, like social, playful, adventurous, flirty, kind of sexy, great little trine to go and have some fun. Now we do get that first quarter square from the moon to the sun in Virgo. So the moon in Sag, the sun in Virgo. And I really do think that it just kind of brings up this like, oh, I need to get this done kind of feeling. The moon in Sag wants to adventure. It wants to go and right off into the sunset. And Sun in Virgo isn't really so much about that. Like, let's be real. It's really about, being grounded inside of one's reality to create the kind of systems that run efficiently and are helpful. And so this could feel like feeling pretty discombobulated around the choices and the actions that we need to take at this time, because how we're feeling and what we're doing aren't really jiving. But try to use that really, really fun and lovely trine to just kind of go out and let your hair down. And then just go with the flow. Sunday, August 31st is the sun's day. The sun is in analytical, critical, perfectionist Virgo, organized, hopefully clean. System oriented. Yeah. So it's the sun's day. Go clean your room. Today, there's not a lot of aspects, though we do get a couple of aspects that I think really kind of allow us to maybe continue to work through some of the things that came up for us earlier in the week, especially when the moon was in Scorpio. And I say that because at 12:44 p.m. we're going to get Mercury trine retrograde Chiron. So I think that we have the opportunity here to really process and to think and to speak on what we have either integrated about our wounds, our healing, the healing that we need to do, that we can kind of talk about like this is our plan to do whatever we need to do for our healing, to maybe instigate that plan, or to literally just have a conversation. It's a really great aspect to go to therapy, as if you could go to your therapist on a Sunday. But this could be a time to like just really journal about what you've learned on your journey. This could be communicating in like an intuitive and empathetic way. So if you have to have, maybe a hard conversation with somebody, especially around the things that you need or the things that you've noticed they need, this is a really lovely aspect to kind of take at this time. And then at 2:52 p.m., we're going to get the moon sextile Mars in Libra. And this is, flowing. It's a sextile. Moon in Sag. This could feel really, really playful and connective and social. You kind of want to get out there, kind of spread your wings, go connect with people, go share what you know, and kind of exchange of like wisdom with other people. So it feels nice and social, and I really like that for the Sunday. Like, this is so lovely for a brunch today. Though at 6:54 p.m., last aspect of the day, we have Moon quincunx Jupiter. And so there could be something around like our goals and aspirations that we need to make some sort of emotional shift to. This could feel a little bit like some anxiety coming in. Maybe, that those flowing aspects kind of allowed you to feel a little bit more open that you wanted to. And now you kind of need to like reorient yourself. But certainly there's also like, try not to push yourself too much or too hard or to overdo it, because it'll kind of create a more anxious space. So really, I think that today, Sunday, is a day to just try to like simmer. Connect with those who like feed your heart and you are able to give that to as well, that you want to be like present with. But also, like, it's the sun's day and the sun is in Virgo, so go clean your room. Monday, September 1st is the moon's day. The moon is in Sagittarius, will go into Capricorn today, and the moon is out of bounds. So we are still dealing with really big feelings, big emotions, right? Big sensitivities in the sky. 1:06 a.m., Saturn is going to re-enter Pisces until February 14th of 2026. So the nice thing is, it's kind of good news, bad news bears, right? Saturn retrograde means that it's going to go back over some old territory. It forgot something in the shop. It's got to go back in. So those of you who have Saturn in Pisces, for your Saturn, there's a little bit more to your Saturn return. Maybe, while it was in Aries, it kind of let off the gas. You were picking up the pieces, and now there's just like one final hit, especially for those of you that have Saturn in Pisces at late degrees. There's just a little bit more left, right? And for those of you with Saturn in Aries, this is a time where maybe it's going to let off some of the gas so that you can breathe a little bit before it goes more unrelentingly on your neck when it enters back into Aries in February 2026. So, we can go over old goals, old limits, old tests, maybe some boundaries that you set that you're like, maybe I don't really need those. there's just a time to maybe revisit some things that you have self-limited for yourself. And certainly if you have any planets at the very last degrees, Saturn could be making a little visit, and by major or minor aspects saying like, hey, like we gotta figure out what the limit is, we gotta figure out what the boundary is. I'm gonna test you here, I'm gonna test the system to see if that's really how you want it. Yeah, today feels like good news bad news bears. I think for most of the day, it's going to feel a little bit anxious, a little bit hyphy, and like we kind of don't really know what to do with ourselves or our hands. This is like, oh, like what do we do? There's some nice things that kind of bring in some intuition, some empathy. We have Moon trine retrograde Chiron, 12:16 p.m., 1:02 p.m. Mars sesame square Uranus. Try not to like flash out in anger or to like make sudden movements or to just kind of like, there's like a sudden overboard kind of thing that's happening here. To act really passionately, it kind of feels a little bit explosive and uncontrolled, certainly. And that like whatever kind of you take on at this point, or whatever action you take at this point, might have unintended consequences because of Uranus being so unruly and unable. We can't really like predict what Uranus is going to do because that's how Uranus is. It's almost like you want to break free, but it just like creates more issues in a way. Moon trine Mercury at 4:36 p.m. This is a good aspect to have conversation, to, yeah, how you feel and how you're thinking and how you're processing are kind of jiving. So you're able to just have like an ease and flow and being able to connect through how you speak and how you're speaking about yourself and how you're speaking about others. We're going to have a moon square retrograde Saturn. This is like, wah, wah, you're feeling limited. Maybe you're feeling a little bit depressed. Maybe you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It feels a little bit like a wet blanket, especially because retrograde Saturn is now in Pisces and it's at an anaretic degree because it's at 29. So it's just like, maybe it's like you feel like all of a sudden you have, met a roadblock, an emotional roadblock that you're like, oh, like, damn, Moon is going to enter Capricorn at 6:44 p.m. She is down to the nitty gritty. She wants to get down to business. She wants to get down to brass tacks. She wants to do the things that kind of allow her to feel like she has achieved something. Moon in Capricorn is like, I'll do it. I'll do it myself. Don't like stay out of my business. I'll do it myself. Just nice and boundaried, nice and kind of walled off. Nice is a word, right? But it definitely is a moon that is more contained emotionally. And it's just like, I'm just going to get down to the business of things. So we are going to have the moon square retrograde Neptune at this time, and could be feeling a bit overwhelmed or disillusioned with all of the work that we have to do, all of the things we have to accomplish, all of the, tasks and work that is placed upon our shoulders, all of our responsibilities. And we're like, damn, just like, whoa. So just like really try to breathe through these transits. It's not as bleak as it looks, but it probably feels a bit rough right now. And then we're going to have the moon in Capricorn, quincunx Uranus in Gemini. And I think that this is almost like a pressure release valve of like new information comes in that allows you to either set up a new limit or boundary that like kind of protects you, or it kind of forces you to like shift a habit or change something about what you were doing based on the information that has been presented to you, maybe, or a new way of thinking. So it's like a sudden change that feels a bit frustrating or anxious in having to create that change, because Uranus is really trying to like liberate, and it's like liberating through like actual shock. It's not gentle, it's not flowing, it's just like a sudden shift. So like I said, good news, bad news day. Really try to go with the flow, just like try to woo-saw through this day. Try not to overreact in frustration, especially with that Mars sesqui square Uranus. I just think that like the unintended consequences could be pretty not great if you should like pop off where you shouldn't. Tuesday, September 2nd is Mars's day. Mars is in Libra, and I think that she or he or Mars is feeling pretty fired up. Mars is within a degree of squaring Jupiter, which just kind of gives an amplification. So like try not to overexert yourself physically or in any sort of like super passionate way. And there's a lot of other things that kind of could assist in us trying to kind of push or to take some sort of action that could be a little bit overblown. At 5:20 a.m., Mercury in Leo is going to quincunx retrograde Saturn in Pisces. And I think that this is going to, and what it says is we need to adjust how we're thinking. We need to adjust how we're processing, how we're speaking. We need to kind of like maybe go within, figure some things out, really mull it over and shift and change, right? Maybe we need to reassess how we're thinking about our goals or the structures that we're kind of creating or the sorts of limits and boundaries that we need to reassess our thinking here and make the proper adjustments. At 6:23 a.m., Mercury is going to then enter Virgo, the cleaner upper of the signs, right? Now, Mercury wants to get literally to the essence of something, the essential space, right? What is really actually necessary. This is an analytical Mercury, right? It wants to separate the wheat from the chaff. It wants to take all of the data analysis and say, okay, I don't need that, but I'm going to keep this, right? This is going to make for a good system. This is going to be an organized way of doing things, right? I really love when Mercury enters Virgo because at home and also in the sign of her exaltation. So she works really, really well here, kind of going like, okay, we've learned a lot. We've done a lot. We've probably said some things that we shouldn't have said when we were in Leo. And now we're going to tighten this up. Yeah, tighten it up. We're going to perfect things. This is like careful and considerate speech. I love it. And I'm very, very happy for Mercury to enter this space, especially when we have so many other big things happening in the sky. I think it really helps us to hopefully think and process a bit more clearly and with some effectiveness. Moon is going to quincunx Venus in Leo at 1:39 p.m. This might be some sort of emotional shift that we need to do inside of our relationships or the things that we value, the things that we care about. We could just be feeling a bit unsettled in our relationships. You know, the moon is fast, so just kind of like let it flow, let it shift, make the necessary adjustments you need to make. 3:23 p.m., the moon in Capricorn is going to trine the sun in Virgo. This is a nice working trine, right? This is literally to the two business signs of like work and service going like, yes, we are running in a circuit. So what I think is so nice is like we've already been invited to kind of shift our perspective and maybe like think differently about our goals. And then we're like thinking hopefully a bit more clearly in like analytical system sort of ways. And then we can go and just like implement that work. This feels like a nice working day. Sure, there's a little free floating anxiety around, but like we live in America or we live in a society. That's just what's going on right now. But like this is the day to try to go get some things done. And then at 10:43 p.m., Mercury is going to quincunx retrograde Neptune in Aries. And I think this is like, we need to shift also perspectives around like the vision, the dream, the illusion, the art we create, the like ultimate fantasies that we have. We have to maybe shift something, change something, reprocess something, or process something in order to like revisit something that is like bigger and more esoteric, right? There is a shift in consciousness that needs to kind of happen here. But because we've already done some of that work earlier in the day, I think it just feels like a little shift and not like a huge break. Today is the day, or one of the days, to really just like get the work done. Use that trine between the moon and the sun to really just like flow through the day. Hey, thank you for listening to today's Astro Weather with me. I'm Sydney. As a reminder, I'm always open to seeing both new and my beloved returning clients. My website is ddastrology.com. That is D as in dog, astrology.com to check me out, and just click the email buttons in order to schedule with me. If you're into a more conversational feel with your podcast and content, I have a podcast called BS Astrology with my fellow Mercurial Mommy Bender, and we put out episodes every Sunday for the week. Just search BS Astrology on YouTube or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcast, including Spotify, Audible, and more. Have a good day.